The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Luminescence, Manhattan's most exclusive rooftop restaurant, as Isabella Munro pressed her champagne flute against her trembling lips. Below, the city sparkled like scattered diamonds, oblivious to the storm raging both outside and within her chest. "You're not even listening to me." Bradley's voice cut through her thoughts, sharp and accusatory. Isabella blinked, forcing herself to focus on her fiancé's perfectly symmetrical face. Bradley Huntington III, heir to a pharmaceutical empire, Harvard-educated, impeccably dressed. On paper, he was everything her father had groomed her to want. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "What were you saying?" Bradley's jaw tightened. "I was saying that father expects us to announce the engagement at the charity gala next month. It's been 2 years, Isabella. 2 years of this. Whatever this is. It's time we made it official." Something cold settled in Isabella's stomach. 2 years. 2 years of perfectly choreographed dates, of kissing that felt like pressing her lips against marble, of conversations that never went deeper than stock portfolios and social calendars. "Bradley, don't." He raised a manicured hand. "Don't give me another excuse. Your father agrees it's time. Our families have been planning this union since we were children. You're 24 years old, Isabella. It's time to stop with this romantic nonsense and accept reality." Reality. The word tasted like ash in her mouth. "I need some air," Isabella said, standing abruptly. The restaurant's other patrons, all dripping in diamonds and designer labels, barely glanced her way. "Isabella, sit down. You're making a scene." But she was already moving toward the exit, her Valentino heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown to freedom. The rain soaked through her silk dress within seconds, but Isabella didn't care. She walked without direction, letting her feet carry her away from Luminescence, away from Bradley, away from the gilded cage of her life. The city at night was a different creature, wild, unpredictable, real, in a way her world never was. She didn't know how long she walked before she heard it. A voice, raw and haunting, rising above the sound of rain and traffic. Isabella followed, it like a siren's call, turning down a narrow street in the East Village until she found him. He stood in the doorway of a closed bookstore, guitar in hand, singing to an audience of shadows and streetlights. His clothes were worn but clean, his dark hair plastered to his forehead by rain, and when he sang, it was as if he was pulling pieces of his soul through his vocal cords and offering them to the indifferent night. "I've got nothing but these empty hands, nothing but this borrowed time, nothing but a heart that understands what it means to fall, what it means to climb." Isabella stopped, transfixed. She'd heard 1,000 professional performances, attended countless operas and concerts, but she'd never heard anything like this desperate, defiant beauty. When the song ended, silence stretched between them. The young man looked up, seeming to notice her for the first time, and Isabella's breath caught. His eyes were the color of aged whiskey, warm and deep and utterly unguarded. "You're soaked," he said, a hint of amusement in his voice. "So are you," Isabella replied, and found herself smiling for the first time in weeks. "Yeah, but I don't look like I'm wearing a dress that costs more than my yearly rent." He tilted his head, studying her with unsettling intensity. "You lost?" "Completely," Isabella admitted, and she wasn't just talking about directions. He grinned, a real unpolished smile that made something flutter in her chest. "Well, there's a 24-hour diner around the corner. Terrible coffee, but dry booths. Want to be lost there instead?" Isabella knew she should say no. She should call. Bradley apologize. Go back to her penthouse on the Upper East Side. She should do what Isabella Munro always did. The right thing, the expected thing, the thing that would disappoint no one but herself. "Yes," she said instead. "I'd like that very much." The diner was exactly as advertised. Fluorescent lights, cracked vinyl booths, and coffee that tasted like battery acid. It was perfect. "I'm Andrew," he said, wrapping his hands around a chipped mug. "Andrew Chen. Isabella." She hesitated, then decided against using her last name. For once, she wanted to be just Isabella. "So what's a girl in a designer dress doing, walking alone in the rain at midnight, Isabella?" "Running away," she said honestly. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. "From a proposal I don't want to accept. From a life I never chose. From becoming someone I don't recognize anymore." Andrew studied her for a long moment. "Heavy stuff for a first conversation. We could talk about the weather instead." "Nah." He leaned back, that easy grin returning. "Weather's boring. Tell me about this life you didn't choose." And so she did. Isabella found herself telling this stranger things she'd never told anyone. About growing up as Marcus Monroe's daughter, about the weight of expectations, about feeling like a beautiful doll being moved from room to room in a mansion she couldn't escape. She told him about Bradley, about the engagement that felt like a business merger, about waking up every morning and wondering if this was really all there was. Andrew listened without interruption, his expression serious now. And when she finally fell silent, he said softly, "Sounds like you're already in prison. The question is whether you're going to stay there. It's not that simple, isn't it?" Andrew leaned forward. "Look, I don't know anything about your world, Isabella. I grew up in Queens with a single mom who worked 3 jobs. I never had money, never had connections, never had doors open just because of my last name. But I've got something you don't seem to have. Freedom. And you know what? I'd choose that over a golden cage every single time. It's easy to say that when you've never had to... Never had to what? Deal with responsibility? I'm 26 years old, and I've been responsible for myself since I was 18. I put myself through 2 years of college before money ran out. I work construction during the day and play music at night, because it's the only thing that makes me feel alive. I eat ramen 4 nights a week and sleep in a studio apartment the size of your closet, probably." His eyes flashed. "Don't tell me I don't understand responsibility. I understand it just fine. What I don't understand is living a life that makes you miserable just because it's expected." The words hit Isabella like a slap. Not cruel, but clarifying. She stared at Andrew. This beautiful, passionate stranger who'd somehow articulated everything she'd felt but never dared to say. "I'm sorry," Andrew said, his expression softening. "That was harsh." "No," Isabella said quietly. "It was honest. I think I needed honest." They sat in silence for a moment, and then Andrew said, "Tell me something real about you. Not about your father or your fiancé or what you're supposed to be. Tell me who Isabella is when no one's watching." No one had ever asked her that before. "I love old bookstores," Isabella said slowly. "The ones that smell like dust and possibility. I love reading poetry in the middle of the night when everyone else is asleep. I love jazz music, not the modern stuff, but the old recordings where you can hear every scratch and imperfection. I love the rain because it makes the city feel honest." She paused. "And I've never told anyone this, but sometimes I go to the Met and just sit in front of the Sargent paintings for hours, imagining what it would be like to be that free, that alive, that real." Andrew's smile was soft now, genuine. "See? That's Isabella. Everything else is just noise." They talked until dawn painted the sky pink and gold, until the exhausted night shift waitress had refilled their coffee cups 5 times, until Isabella felt like she was waking up from a long sleep. Andrew told her about his dreams of making music professionally, about the songs he wrote in the middle of the night, about his belief that art mattered more than money ever could. When they finally stepped back onto the street, the rain had stopped, leaving the city washed clean and glistening. "I should go," Isabella said, though every cell in her body was screaming at her to stay. "Yeah," Andrew agreed. But he didn't move. "Can I? Would you want to see me again? I mean, I know we're from different worlds and this is probably crazy, but..." "Yes," Isabella interrupted. "Tomorrow. Same diner?" Andrew's face lit up like she'd offered him the world. "Tomorrow." Isabella turned to leave, then stopped. "Andrew, thank you. For tonight. For being real." "Any time, Isabella," he said softly. "Any time." As she climbed into a taxi, Isabella caught sight of herself in the window. Wet hair, ruined dress, smudged makeup. She looked like a disaster. She looked like herself. For 3 months, Isabella lived a double life. By day, she was Marcus Monroe's dutiful daughter, attending charity luncheons and board meetings, smiling for photographers beside Bradley, discussing wedding venues and designer gowns. By night, she was just Isabella, slipping away to meet Andrew in coffee shops and dive bars, in art galleries and record stores, in all the hidden corners of a city that suddenly felt infinite with possibility. They couldn't stay away from each other. What started as conversation became something deeper, more consuming. Andrew showed her his New York, street art in Brooklyn, poetry slams in the Village, late-night concerts in basements where the music was rough and real and made her heart race. Isabella showed him her world too, not the penthouses and galas, but the secret places she'd discovered in her loneliness. The hidden garden in Central Park, the vintage bookstore in the Bronx, the tiny Italian restaurant where nobody knew her name. And somewhere between showing each other their worlds, they fell in love. It was terrifying and exhilarating and inevitable, like watching a storm roll in across the ocean, beautiful and destructive and utterly beyond their control. "I'm falling for you," Andrew told her one night, his voice rough with emotion. They were on the rooftop of his building, the city spread out beneath them like a promise. "I know I shouldn't. I know this is complicated and maybe impossible, but I can't stop." "I don't want to stop." Isabella's throat tightened. "Andrew, you don't have to say it back. I know what I am. I know I can't give you anything except this." He gestured around them. "Cheap wine and borrowed time and a heart that's completely, irrevocably yours. But that's all I've got, Isabella. And if it's enough, if even a part of you feels what I feel, then maybe we can figure out the rest." Isabella looked at him, this beautiful, impossible man who'd somehow become her whole world, and felt something crack open in her chest. "It's enough," she whispered. "God help me, Andrew, it's more than enough." When he kissed her, it was like coming home. Not to the cold marble mansion on the Upper East Side, but to some place deeper, warmer, real in a way nothing in her life had ever been. She'd been kissed before, polite pecks from Bradley, drunken mistakes in college. But this was different. This was Andrew's hands in her hair, her fingers clutching his shirt, both of them breathing hard and fast like they'd been drowning and just found air. "I love you," Isabella gasped against his mouth. "I love you. I love you. I love you." They made love for the first time that night in Andrew's tiny studio, and Isabella understood for the first time why people wrote poetry about this. About skin on skin, about whispered confessions in the dark, about feeling so connected to another person that you couldn't tell where you ended and they began. "What are we going to do?" Andrew asked afterward, his voice quiet in the darkness. Isabella was curled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, trying to memorize this moment before reality came crashing back. "I don't know," she admitted. "My father would never accept this. Bradley's family would be furious. The scandal alone would—" "Do you love him?" Andrew interrupted. "Bradley. Do you love him?" "No," Isabella said immediately. "I never have. It's always been an arrangement, a merger of fortunes. Love was never part of the equation." "Then leave him. Leave all of it. Choose this instead." His arms tightened around her. "Choose us." It sounded so simple when he said it like that. Just choose love, choose happiness, choose life over slow death in a golden cage. But Isabella knew it wasn't simple. Her father had built an empire on connections and appearances. Bradley's family controlled half the pharmaceutical industry. Breaking the engagement would mean war, social, financial, personal. It would mean losing everything she'd ever known. "I need time," she whispered. "Just a little more time to figure out how to do this without destroying everything." Andrew was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Okay, but Isabella, don't wait too long, because I've got nothing but time and love to give you, and I'm terrified that one day you're going to wake up and decide that's not enough." "It's enough," Isabella insisted. "I promise you, Andrew. It's enough." But even as she said it, she felt the first cold fingers of doubt creeping in. The illusion shattered 3 weeks later. Isabella was at a board meeting at Monroe Industries when her father's assistant slipped her a note. "Emergency. Father's office. Now." Her stomach dropped. Marcus Monroe didn't do emergencies. He did calculated moves and strategic decisions. For him to summon her in the middle of a meeting meant something was very, very wrong. She found him behind his massive desk, his face carved from granite, a manila folder open in front of him. "Sit down, Isabella." She sat. "I'm going to ask you a question," Marcus said, his voice dangerously calm. "And I expect complete honesty. Are you having an affair with someone?" Isabella's blood turned to ice. "I what?" "Don't lie to me." He pushed the folder across the desk. Inside were photographs, Isabella and Andrew walking hand in hand through Central Park, kissing outside his building, laughing in that little Italian restaurant. Someone had been following her. Someone had documented everything. How Bradley's father hired a private investigator. He had concerns about your behavior, about canceled dinners and mysterious absences. And now I understand why. Marcus's eyes were cold, disappointed in a way that made Isabella feel like she was 5 years old again. "Who is he?" "His name is Andrew Chen," Isabella said, lifting her chin. Some part of her was terrified, but another part, the part that had been growing stronger with every moment spent with Andrew, refused to cower. "And I'm in love with him." "In love." Marcus laughed, bitter and harsh. "You're not in love, Isabella. You're having a crisis. A moment of rebellion before you settle into the life you were always meant to live." "That's not true. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Marcus's voice rose, fury breaking through his controlled facade. "The Huntington deal is worth billions." "Billions, Isabella. Bradley's family controls pharmaceutical patents that could revolutionize our medical division. This merger, because that's what your marriage is, a merger, would secure the Monroe legacy for generations." "And you're willing to throw that away for what? A musician?" He spat the word like it was poisonous. "He's not just a musician." He's nobody," Marcus interrupted. "A nobody who works construction and plays in dive bars. A nobody who will never be able to give you the life you deserve. A nobody who will hold you back from your potential." "Oh, stop calling him that." Isabella was on her feet now, shaking with anger. "Andrew is kind and talented and real in a way that no one in my world has ever been. He sees me, Father, not as an asset or a chess piece, but as a person. When I'm with him, I feel alive for the first time in my life." "Then you're a fool." Marcus stood as well, imposing and immovable. "Love doesn't pay bills, Isabella. Love doesn't build empires. Love is a fairy tale you tell children before they learn how the real world works. Your mother and I had an arrangement, and it worked perfectly well." "Mom left you," Isabella said quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. "Your mother left because she was weak," Marcus finally said, "because she couldn't handle the responsibilities that came with being a Monroe. I won't let you make the same mistake. You can't stop me, can't I?" Marcus's smile was cold. "Your trust fund doesn't vest until you're 25. Your apartment is in my name. Your credit cards are tied to company accounts. If you leave Bradley for this musician, you'll have nothing. No money, no home, no family. Is that what you want? To throw away everything for someone you barely know?" "I know him better than I've ever known anyone, including you," Isabella shot back. "And if that's the price of love, then maybe it's worth paying." Marcus stared at her for a long moment. Then he sat down, suddenly looking older than his 58 years. "I'll make you a deal," he said quietly. "End this affair, marry Bradley as planned, and in return, I'll make sure your musician friend gets everything he needs. Recording contracts, studio time, promotion. I'll use every connection I have to launch his career. He'll have the success he's dreaming of without you having to sacrifice everything you are. Isabella felt the world tilt beneath her feet. What? It's a generous offer, Isabella. He gets his dreams. You get your life. Everyone wins. Except I lose him. You'll forget him, Marcus said dismissively. In a year he'll be a pleasant memory, a brief rebellion before you grew up. And he'll be successful, living his dream. Isn't that what you want for him? Isabella's mind was reeling. The offer was tempting in a terrible way. Andrew would get everything he'd worked for. And she would go back to her cage. But Andrew would be happy. Andrew would be free. I need to think, she managed. You have 24 hours, Marcus said. After that, I'll take action to protect this family's interests. And trust me, Isabella, you won't like what that looks like. Isabella didn't go to Andrew's apartment that night. Instead, she went to the penthouse and stared at the city lights until dawn, her father's words echoing in her head. He'll never be able to give you the life you deserve. Love doesn't build empires. Everyone wins. But there was no winning in this, was there? Only different ways of losing. Her phone buzzed with texts from Andrew. Where are you? Getting worried. Isabella, please answer. Did something happen? Talk to me. She typed and deleted responses a dozen times before finally writing, We need to talk. Meet me at our diner tomorrow at noon. His response was immediate. I'll be there. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. I love you. Isabella's vision blurred with tears. I love you too. So much, and that was the problem, wasn't it? She loved him so much that she was willing to destroy her entire life for him. But was love enough when it meant taking away his dreams? When it meant he'd be shackled to her financial ruin? Unable to pursue the music that made him come alive? Her father's words haunted her. Isn't that what you want for him? Yes, God help her, yes. She wanted Andrew to have everything he'd ever dreamed of, even if it meant she couldn't be part of that dream. By morning, Isabella had made her decision. It felt like swallowing glass. Andrew was already at the diner when Isabella arrived, his face lighting up the moment he saw her. That smile. God, that smile that made her feel like she was the only person in the world, almost broke her resolve completely. Hey, you? He stood to kiss her, but Isabella pulled back. His expression immediately shifted to concern. What's wrong? Sit down, she said quietly. Please. They slid into their usual booth, but everything felt different now. The coffee tasted like ashes, the vinyl seats felt too hard, and the distance between them might as well have been an ocean. You're scaring me, Isabella. What happened? My father knows, she said. About us. He has pictures, evidence. Bradley's family hired an investigator. Andrew's face went pale. Okay, that's not ideal, but we knew this was coming eventually, right? So now we can stop hiding. We can be together openly. Andrew, no. Isabella forced herself to meet his eyes, to not look away from the pain she was about to inflict. That's not going to happen. What do you mean? I mean, this was a mistake. All of it. I got caught up in some fantasy of escape, but that's all it was. Fantasy. The lies tasted like poison, but she pushed forward. I'm not leaving my life for you, Andrew. I can't. The silence stretched unbearably. Andrew stared at her like she'd just driven a knife into his chest. You're lying, he finally said, his voice hoarse. I know you, Isabella. You don't mean this. I do mean it. I'm getting married to Bradley. In 6 weeks, actually. The engagement announcement is tomorrow. Each word was agony. This thing between us, it was fun while it lasted, but it's time to be realistic. You said it yourself. We're from different worlds. Different worlds that met, Andrew said desperately. Different worlds that fell in love. Isabella, look at me. Really look at me. Do you honestly feel nothing? Isabella couldn't look at him. If she did, she'd break. She'd tell him everything. About her father's threats, about the offer, about how she was doing this to protect him. But she couldn't tell him that. Andrew would refuse the deal, would insist they face everything together, and she couldn't let him sacrifice his dreams for her. I feel what I felt for you from the beginning, she said carefully. Attraction, excitement. But that's not the same as love. Not real love. Not the kind that lasts. That's bullshit. Andrew's voice rose, drawing stares from other patrons. Don't you dare sit there and tell me what we had wasn't real. Those nights we stayed up until dawn talking about everything and nothing, that was real. The way you looked at me when we made love, that was real. The way you said my name like a prayer. Stop, Isabella whispered. Please stop. No, I won't stop. Because I know you, Isabella Monroe. I know when you're lying, and you're lying right now. So tell me the truth. Tell me what really happened. What he said to you to make you do this. He said that you're nobody, Isabella snapped, her own pain and anger finally breaking through. He said you'll never be able to give me anything except poverty and struggle. He said I'd be throwing away everything, my family, my money, my future, for someone who plays guitar in the rain and lives in a studio apartment. And you know what, Andrew? He's right. Andrew flinched like she'd struck him. You don't mean that. I do mean it. I got swept up in some romantic idea of us against the world, but the reality is harsh. I'm used to private jets and designer clothes and not worrying about rent. Could you give me that, Andrew? Could you give me even a fraction of what I'm used to? No, he admitted, his voice breaking. I can't give you money or prestige or whatever the hell else you think matters. But I can give you love, Isabella. Real, messy, complicated love. The kind where I know your coffee order and the way you hum when you're reading and that you cry during old movies, even when you pretend not to. The kind where I'd work 3 jobs just to see you smile. The kind where I'd give up everything, music, dreams, everything, just to keep you. Well, I don't want that kind of love. Isabella was crying now, hot tears streaming down her face. I don't want sacrifices and struggle. I don't want to be the reason you give up your dreams. I don't want... Her voice broke. I don't want you. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Andrew stood slowly, his eyes red but dry. When he spoke, his voice was eerily calm. You're lying to protect me. I don't know what your father threatened or offered, but I know you, Isabella. And I know you're lying. I'm not... Yes, you are. And the saddest part? You're probably lying to yourself most of all. He pulled out his wallet and threw a 20 on the table. But I'm not going to fight you. If you want to marry Bradley, if you want to live in your golden cage, that's your choice. I can't make you choose me. I can't make you brave enough to fight for us. Andrew, no. I'm done begging. He looked at her one last time, and the devastation in his eyes almost undid her completely. I hope it's worth it, Isabella. I hope all that money and security keeps you warm at night. I hope it fills the space in your chest where your heart used to be, because I'll tell you something. A year from now, when you're Mrs. Bradley Huntington and living in some mansion uptown, you're going to remember this moment. You're going to remember that once someone loved you enough to want nothing from you except you, and you walked away. He turned and left the diner without looking back. Isabella sat frozen in the booth, tears streaming silently down her face, and felt her heart shatter into a million irreparable pieces. The next 6 weeks were a special kind of hell. Isabella went through the motions, dress fittings, flower arrangements, guest lists. She smiled for engagement photos and said yes to every question Bradley asked. She attended dinner parties and charity galas, Bradley's hand cold and possessive on her arm, and felt like a ghost haunting her own life. Every night, she picked up her phone to call Andrew. Every night, she put it back down. Her father watched her with satisfaction. You made the right choice, he said over breakfast one morning. In time, you'll see that, but Isabella didn't see it. She just saw the rest of her life stretching out before her, endless, empty, safe. 2 weeks before the wedding, a package arrived at her penthouse. Inside was a CD with a note in Andrew's familiar handwriting. I wrote this for you. I hope someday you'll be brave enough to listen. Isabella stared at the CD for 3 days before she finally, in a moment of weakness at 2 a.m., put it in her player. Andrew's voice filled her apartment, raw and haunting. I loved a girl who was too afraid to fall, too scared to jump when I would catch it all. She chose the cage, she chose the lie, and left me here to wonder why. Maybe love's not always enough. Maybe wanting's just too rough. Maybe I was just a dream she had to wake up from. Maybe I was never enough. Isabella listened to the entire album, 12 songs, each one a piece of Andrew's shattered heart. And when it finished, she made a decision. She called her father. I can't do this, she said without preamble. I can't marry Bradley. I'm calling off the wedding. There was a long silence. Then, Isabella, I don't care about the money. I don't care about the scandal. I don't care about any of it. You were wrong, Father. Love does matter. It's the only thing that matters. And I love Andrew. I've loved him from the moment I met him. And I'm not going to spend the rest of my life regretting that I was too cowardly to fight for him. Isabella, if you do this, I know. You'll cut me off. I'll have nothing. And you know what? I don't care. I'd rather have nothing with Andrew than everything without him. I'd rather struggle and fight and build something real than live in luxury, knowing I gave up on the only thing that ever made me happy. You're making a mistake. Maybe, Isabella admitted. But it'll be my mistake, my choice. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing what I want instead of what's expected. And I want Andrew. She hung up before her father could respond. Finding Andrew proved harder than Isabella expected. His phone was disconnected. His landlord said he'd moved out 3 weeks earlier, without leaving a forwarding address. He wasn't playing at any of his usual venues. It was like he'd vanished into the city's 8 million souls, and Isabella realized with growing panic that she might have waited too long. That Andrew might have decided she wasn't worth the pain and moved on. She spent 3 days searching, asking at coffee shops and record stores, following every lead until she found herself in a small recording studio in Brooklyn. Andrew Chen? The sound engineer looked up from his mixing board. Yeah, I know him. Talented guy. He's been coming in here for the past few weeks working on an album. Is he here now? Nah, but he usually shows up around 7. You can wait if you want. Isabella waited. She waited through sunset and into evening, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. And then, just as the city lights began to flicker on, Andrew walked through the door. He froze when he saw her. What are you doing here? His voice was carefully neutral, but Isabella could see the pain in his eyes, could see how much thinner he looked, how exhausted. I called off the wedding, Isabella said, standing. I told my father I'm not marrying Bradley. I told him I love you and I'm choosing you. Consequences be damned. Andrew didn't move. When? 3 days ago. I've been looking for you ever since. 3 days ago, Andrew repeated slowly. So, what? Your wedding's in less than 2 weeks. You suddenly got cold feet, and you decided I'd be waiting around as your backup plan. No, Andrew, that's not because I've spent the past 6 weeks trying to forget you. Andrew continued, his voice rising. 6 weeks wondering what I did wrong. 6 weeks thinking I wasn't enough, that I could never be enough for someone like you. 6 weeks writing songs about a girl who chose money over me. And now you show up here because what? You're having second thoughts? You decided maybe the poor musician isn't so bad after all? I made a mistake! Isabella's own voice broke. I was trying to protect you. My father offered to launch your career if I married Bradley. He said he'd give you everything you ever wanted. Recording contracts, promotion, success. And I thought I was being noble. I thought I was choosing your dreams over my happiness. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. Andrew stared at her. He offered to launch my career? Yes. And I was stupid enough to think that was what you'd want. That you'd rather have success than have me struggle beside you. But Andrew... She stepped closer, tears streaming down her face. I don't care about money. I don't care about penthouses or designer clothes or any of it. I care about you. I care about the way you make me laugh, and the way you see the world, and the way you make me feel brave enough to be myself. I care about building something real with you, even if it's hard. Especially if it's hard. Isabella, I'm not finished. She was crying openly now. You were right about everything. I was too afraid to fall. Too scared to choose you. Too wrapped up in what I'd be losing to see what I'd be gaining. But I'm choosing you now, Andrew. I'm choosing us. Even if it means my father never speaks to me again. Even if it means starting from nothing. Even if it means... Andrew kissed her. It was desperate and fierce, and full of 6 weeks of longing and pain and love that refused to die no matter how hard they'd tried to kill it. Isabella kissed him back with everything she had, her hands in his hair, his arms wrapped around her waist, both of them holding on like they were drowning and each other was air. I'm so sorry, Isabella gasped between kisses. I'm so sorry I hurt you. I'm so sorry I wasn't brave enough before. But I'm brave now, I swear. I'm brave enough for both of us. You idiot, Andrew said, but he was smiling through his tears. You beautiful, frustrating, complicated idiot. Don't you know I never wanted success without you? Don't you know that every song I wrote, every dream I had you in it? You're not the thing I was willing to sacrifice for my dreams, Isabella. You're the dream. I love you, Isabella said. I love you so much. I love you too. Andrew pulled back just enough to look at her. But I need to know, are you sure about this? Because there's no going back. If you choose me, you're choosing struggle. You're choosing late rent payments and cheap wine and not knowing where the next paycheck is coming from. You're choosing an uncertain future with a guy who has more dreams than money. Are you really sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Isabella said firmly. Money doesn't make you happy, Andrew. Success doesn't make you fulfilled. But love, real, messy, complicated love, that's what makes life worth living. And I'd rather have a tiny apartment with you than a mansion with Bradley. I'd rather eat ramen 4 nights a week with you than caviar every night without you. I'd rather struggle and fight and build something real than spend another day in that golden cage pretending to be happy. Andrew's smile was brilliant. Okay then, let's do this. Let's build something real. Together? Together. They kissed again, softer this time, full of promise and hope and the terrifying, exhilarating knowledge that they were stepping off a cliff together and trusting that they'd learn to fly on the way.